Grace and Michael Miller were the picture-perfect couple, admired by everyone in the small suburban town of Glenridge. Grace, always elegant and composed, seemed like the ideal wife. Michael, a successful businessman with a chain of stores, was seen as the devoted husband. Together with their two bright and talented children, Emma and Jack, they were the epitome of a happy, affluent family. But beneath their flawless image, cracks were beginning to form. Their marriage had started with love and promise, but over the years the spark faded. Michael became consumed by his work, spending long hours at the office and leaving Grace to manage the household and their social appearances alone. Though she kept up the facade of a perfect life, Grace felt increasingly isolated and unfulfilled. In her loneliness, Grace sought companionship in unexpected places. It was during a visit to their family doctor, Theodore Gray, that she found someone who truly listened to her. Dr. Gray was a calm and kind man, well respected in the community. Grace began visiting his office more often, finding comfort in his empathy and understanding. Their professional relationship soon turned personal. Grace confided in Theodore about her struggles, and he reassured her, telling her she deserved more than what she had. Before long, their bond deepened into a full-blown affair. The secret romance breathed new life into Grace, but it also filled her with guilt. She tried to maintain the appearance of a loving wife and mother, but the lie weighed heavily on her. Then everything changed on a gray morning that shattered the fragile balance she had tried to preserve. Michael, who had always seemed fit and healthy, suddenly collapsed at work and died. The doctors said it was a heart attack, but the news didn't sit right with Grace, or the town. As the community mourned, whispers began to spread. Detective Olivia Hayes, assigned to investigate the death, started uncovering secrets that hinted at something more sinister. Grace's perfect world unraveled as Olivia discovered a web of lies, betrayal, and a dangerous affair. Was Michael's death really a tragic accident? Or had Grace, with Theodore's help, orchestrated the perfect crime? In Glenridge, the truth behind the Millers' seemingly idyllic lives began to emerge, shaking the town to its core and forcing everyone involved to confront the consequences of their choices. The town of Glenridge was soon buzzing with shock and sorrow over the sudden death of Michael Miller. He had been a pillar of the community, a successful businessman admired for his generosity and drive. Strangers, friends, and neighbors alike flocked to offer their condolences, sharing fond memories and kind words about the man they thought they knew. Grace Miller found herself at the center of the community's attention. Everyone praised her strength and resilience, unaware of the inner turmoil she faced. While she went through the motions of planning Michael's funeral and accepting endless sympathies, a quiet unease settled in her chest. Something about Michael's death didn't feel right to her, though she couldn't explain why. Detective Olivia Hayes, assigned to investigate the death, initially saw nothing unusual. Michael's death was officially deemed a heart attack, a tragic but natural event. Dr. Theodore Gray, the family's longtime doctor, confirmed that Michael had visited him multiple times, complaining of fatigue and mild chest pains. Yet there were no glaring red flags in his medical history. Despite the straightforward conclusion, Hayes wasn't convinced. She had seen enough in her career to know that things were rarely as simple as they seemed. As she began digging into Michael's life, a different picture began to emerge. Grace, while composed and articulate, seemed just a little too perfect in her grief. Her calm demeanor felt rehearsed, as though she had spent hours crafting the image of a grieving widow. Hayes noticed how Grace maintained control of every detail, keeping her emotions tightly bottled. It was the kind of behavior that hinted at someone hiding something. As Hayes probed further, she discovered inconsistencies in Michael's supposed health decline. Business associates described him as calm and collected, with no signs of stress or pressure that might have led to a heart attack. His routine had remained steady, and his employees painted a picture of a man who was thriving, not struggling. One detail, however, stood out: Michael's frequent visits to Dr. Gray's office in the weeks leading up to his death. At first, Hayes dismissed it as normal. Stress and fatigue could explain multiple doctor's visits, but the lack of detailed records in Michael's medical file raised red flags. There were no notes about prescriptions or specific treatments, and the visits themselves seemed unusually brief and vague. As Hayes delved deeper, a troubling pattern emerged around Dr. Gray. Several women came forward with stories about inappropriate behavior, subtle manipulations, emotional coercion, and even outright affairs. One patient revealed that Gray had once prescribed her unnecessary medication, claiming it would help with stress. Another admitted to an affair, describing how Gray had used his charm and position to exploit her vulnerability. The detective began to suspect that Gray's relationship with Grace was more than just an affair. It might be the key to understanding Michael's death. Hayes uncovered evidence that Grace had been meeting with Gray in secret for months. The nature of their relationship, combined with the doctor's questionable past, made Hayes wonder if Michael's death had been orchestrated, not by chance, but by design. Hayes subpoenaed Gray's medical records and found more alarming gaps. There were no prescriptions or treatments recorded that could explain Michael's sudden death, but the sparse documentation suggested a deliberate attempt to conceal something. The possibility of poisoning or medication misuse crossed her mind, but without proof, Hayes needed to tread carefully. Meanwhile, Grace's behavior became increasingly suspicious. While she continued to mourn publicly, her responses during private questioning grew evasive and defensive. The detective couldn't shake the feeling that Grace's sorrow was carefully crafted, a mask hiding secrets she didn't want anyone to uncover. As Hayes pieced the clues together, she realized she was on the brink of uncovering something far more sinister than she had anticipated. The question remained, was Michael Miller's death a tragic accident or the result of a plan executed by the two people he trusted most? Grace Miller had always been the picture of composure. When her husband Michael died unexpectedly, she played the grieving widow flawlessly, telling anyone who asked that his health had been poor for years. But Detective Olivia Hayes couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The whispers in the community about Grace's long-standing affair with Dr. Theodore Gray only deepened her suspicions. Yet rumors weren't enough. Hayes needed evidence. The deeper Hayes dug, the more cracks appeared in Grace's perfect facade. Grace's charm and cooperation seemed too polished, too calculated. And her affair with Dr. Gray wasn't just a fleeting indiscretion. It was a long-running relationship that hinted at a much darker dynamic. As Hayes worked tirelessly to piece together the timeline of Michael's death, new revelations surfaced. Michael had been distant and uneasy in the days before his death, as if he knew something sinister was closing in. Was it possible that he'd begun to suspect Grace's betrayal? If so, had Grace taken drastic measures to protect her secrets? The investigation took a chilling turn when Hayes unearthed details about a past tragedy. Years earlier, Grace's brother Adam had died in a mysterious boating accident. At the time, authorities had ruled it a tragic mishap. Adam had supposedly fallen overboard and drowned. Grace, ever composed, showed an unsettling lack of grief, brushing off the loss with a calmness that unnerved those who knew her. Digging deeper, Hayes uncovered a troubling link. Shortly after Adam's death, Grace had reached out to Dr. Gray. The timing was too coincidental, raising questions about whether the doctor's involvement extended beyond her affair. Could Grace have had a hand in her brother's death too? Piece by piece, a pattern emerged. Grace had a history of using charm and manipulation to get what she wanted, her relationship with Dr. Gray wasn't just about passion, it was a sinister alliance. The doctor had become her accomplice, using his medical expertise to cover her tracks. The more Hayes uncovered, the clearer it became that Michael's death wasn't a random tragedy. Grace had orchestrated it with chilling precision. She'd grown tired of her marriage, of Michael's cold indifference and controlling nature. The affair with Dr. Gray had offered her an escape, but that wasn't enough. Michael had to go. When Hayes stumbled upon Grace's diary, the case broke wide open. Within its pages were cryptic but damning entries. Grace wrote about her growing frustrations with Michael, her deepening bond with Theodore, and her need to take control of her life. The words hinted at a plan, a clean break. Dr. Gray's involvement became undeniable. Hayes uncovered evidence that he'd helped stage Michael's death to look like a heart attack. His role wasn't passive. He'd enabled Grace every step of the way, ensuring that no one would question the circumstances. But Hayes wasn't done. She unearthed a connection between Grace's actions now and Adam's death years before. Both tragedies bore the same marks of manipulation and deceit. Grace had used Theodore to erase any trace of foul play, securing her freedom while maintaining the illusion of innocence. As Hayes closed in on the truth, Grace's mask of control began to slip. The grieving widow's composure faltered under the weight of mounting evidence. Hayes realized that Michael, Adam, and even Theodore were pawns in Grace's twisted game. Grace Miller wasn't just a woman trapped in a loveless marriage. She was a master manipulator who had spun a web of lies so intricate that it had taken years to unravel. And now, as Hayes prepared to confront her, it was clear that Grace's carefully constructed life was about to crumble. The truth was finally coming to light, and Grace Miller was running out of places to hide. Grace Miller's web of lies had finally unraveled. For years, she had used her beauty and charm to mask the truth, carefully crafting an image of perfection while concealing a far darker reality. But the illusion couldn't last forever. The arrest came swiftly. Grace was charged with the murder of her husband, Michael Miller, as well as involvement in the suspicious death of her brother, Adam Parker. Dr. Theodore Gray, her longtime accomplice, was also taken into custody. His medical license was revoked, leaving his career and reputation in tatters. The once idyllic image of the Miller family, suburban bliss, success, and sophistication, was shattered beyond repair. The town of Glenridge was left reeling, stunned by the revelation of how far Grace had gone to protect her secrets. Detective Olivia Hayes had solved the case, but the weight of it lingered. It was a story that would haunt the town for years to come, a reminder of how deception and ambition could tear apart lives. For Grace, there was no redemption. The life she had so meticulously built was gone, replaced by the stark reality of her crimes. The secrets she had fought so hard to bury had finally surfaced, and with them came the consequences she could no longer escape. The perfect mask was gone, and Grace Miller was left to face the truth in the harshest light of all. In the end, Grace Miller's story was a chilling reminder of the destructive power of lies, manipulation, and unchecked ambition. What began as a facade of suburban perfection unraveled into a harrowing tale of betrayal, deceit, and murder. Behind her carefully crafted image of the devoted wife and grieving widow lay a woman willing to do anything to control her destiny, even if it meant destroying those closest to her. Detective Olivia Hayes' relentless pursuit of the truth revealed not only the depths of Grace's cunning, but also the fragility of the perfect life she had portrayed to the world. The cracks in her facade exposed a pattern of manipulation that spanned years, leaving devastation in its wake. In the quiet town of Glenridge, the fall of Grace Miller was more than a criminal case. It was a sobering tale of how the pursuit of perfection and freedom, when twisted by dark motives, could lead to unimaginable consequences. Grace's downfall and the uncovering of her secrets served as a reminder that beneath the surface of even the most flawless lives, there can lie shadows no one expects. Ultimately, the story closed with justice served, but the haunting echoes of Grace's choices would linger, a testament to the cost of living a life built on lies.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more